everyone. We're checking out this interesting 1985 Chevy C10 I found on Craigslist for $5,000. Let me give you the honest scoop on this classic pickup. This C10 is actually pretty intriguing. We're looking at a black square body with a clean title and an automatic transmission. The seller, Teddy, is being upfront about the truck's condition, which I really appreciate. The odometer shows 22,000 miles, but it has rolled over, so we're looking at 122,000 plus miles realistically. Now let's talk straight facts. The body is remarkably clean for a 40-year-old truck, and that's genuinely impressive. The seller emphasizes there's absolutely no rust on the frame, which is like finding a unicorn for these old C10s. The transmission is shifting smoothly, and it fires up reliably, both huge pluses. However, there are some issues we need to address. The engine has some blow-by, which isn't ideal and could mean some internal wear. The AC's clutch is seized up, so you'll need to factor that repair into your budget. But hey, at least the blower motor was working before that happened. For $5,000, considering today's market and the straight, rust-free body, this could be a solid project truck. The seller paid $6,000 a year ago, and they're firm on the price. Given the clean body and frame, plus the working drivetrain, despite the blow-by, it could be a great starting point for someone looking to restore a classic C10. 2. We're looking at a pretty special listing on Craigslist, a 1972 Ford F100 that's asking $25,000. Let me break this down for you honestly. This is one of those classic Ford trucks that's becoming increasingly rare to find in good condition. What makes this one particularly interesting is that massive 460 cubic inch V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's a seriously fun combination that'll put a smile on any truck lover's face. The seller claims it's 98% rust-free, which is remarkable for a 50-year-old truck, especially considering how prone these old Fords were to rust. With 78,000 miles on the clock and a clean Texas title, this F100 seems to have been well preserved in that dry Texas climate. However, I've got to be straight with you. While $25,000 is a significant amount of money, the market for clean, classic Ford trucks has absolutely skyrocketed in recent years. That 460 4-speed combo is particularly desirable. The seller's description is pretty brief, which makes me wish we had more details about the truck's history, any restoration work, and the condition of the mechanicals. But based on what we can see, if this truck is as clean as described, it could be a solid investment considering where the classic truck market is heading. Just remember, any 50-year-old vehicle will need attention and maintenance, regardless of condition. But if you're looking for a classic F100 with a potent powertrain combination, this could be worth checking out. These early 70s F100s are becoming increasingly collectible, and finding one with the big block 460 and a manual transmission is pretty special. 3. We're checking out an interesting 1963 Ford F100 unibody that's popped up on Craigslist for $7,500. Let me give you the honest scoop on this piece of Ford history. First off, this is a pretty special truck. The unibody F100s were only made from 1961-1963, making them relatively rare finds today. What's really cool is that this one started its life as a desert truck, which usually means better preservation. Well, usually. The seller's being transparent about some rust issues. There are 2 spots behind the cab that have rusted through, which isn't uncommon for these trucks after they move to more humid climates like East Texas. Under the hood, you're looking at the trusty straight-six engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and a low differential. That's a proper old-school work truck setup. The odometer shows 77,060 miles, and while we can't verify if that's original, it's got a clean title. Now, let's be real here. The seller admits it needs some love. But the good news is it runs and starts consistently. They mention driving it occasionally to keep things moving, which is actually good for these old trucks. The fact that it's a running, driving example with the original powertrain makes that $7,500 asking price worth considering in today's market. The seller's honesty about being too old to finish it suggests this is a project truck that needs some attention. but it could be a great opportunity for someone looking to get into classic truck restoration without breaking the bank. These unibody F100s are becoming more sought after, and finding one that runs and drives, despite needing some work, is getting harder these days. 4. We're checking out a really interesting 1967 Chevy C10 that's listed for $9,950, and let me tell you, this one's got some stories to tell. What we're looking at here is a properly maintained piece of American truck history. The seller's transparency about this C10's background is refreshing. They've owned it for a decade, and it was previously owned by their best friend. Even better, this truck has a documented history through Gateway Classics in DFW, which adds some real credibility to its story. Let's talk about what makes this C10 special. It's running a Crate 350 V8, which is paired with the classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's about as authentic as it gets, folks. Being a southern truck with a clean undercarriage is a huge plus, as these old trucks often struggle with rust issues. The seller's mention of it being unmolested suggests it stayed true to its original character. Now, this is a no-frills truck. No power steering, no power brakes, no AC, but that's part of its charm. The heater works great, always a plus. And it's got current antique registration with Hagerty insurance coverage, which tells us it's been treated as a collector vehicle. What really catches my attention is the seller's honesty about its reliability. Being able to sit for 9 months and fire right up with just 3 pumps of the pedal is impressive for a vehicle of this age. The fact that it can cruise comfortably at 75 mph is another big plus. Not all classics can handle modern highway speeds this well. 5. We're looking at something really special. A 1971 Chevrolet K5 Blazer CST that's listed for $26,000. And let me tell you, this is one of those vehicles that makes vintage 404 fans weak in the knees. What we're looking at here is not just any K5 Blazer. It's a CST model, which was the top-of-the-line trim level for these early Blazers. The blue paint with the white removable hardtop is a classic combination that just screams early 70s cool. With 70,156 miles on the clock, this Blazer has lived a life but hasn't been worn out. Under the hood, you've got the tried-and-true 350 V8 paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission and a dual-range transfer case. That's the powertrain combination you want in these early Blazers. It's got enough grunt to handle both highway cruising and serious off-road adventures. The feature list is pretty impressive for a 1971 model. Power steering, power brakes, bucket seats, and that classic Delco push-button radio. The wood grain trim and CST badges are factory-correct touches that really set this Blazer apart from standard models. Now, let's talk value. $26,000 is serious money, but in today's market, clean first-gen Blazers, especially CST models, are becoming increasingly valuable. These early K5s have seen a huge surge in popularity over the last few years, and finding one with the desirable CST trim and what appears to be a well-preserved condition isn't easy. Just remember, like any 50-year-old vehicle, it'll need regular maintenance and care, but these old Chevys are generally pretty straightforward to work on. If you're in the market for a classic 4x4 that combines style, capability, and increasing collectability, this K5 Blazer CST deserves a serious look. 6. We're looking at a 1983 Chevy C10 that's listed for $4,700, and I'm going to give you the straight scoop on this square-body Chevy. Let's be honest right off the bat, this truck has some issues we need to address. First, there's no title, which is a red flag, and could be a headache depending on your state's laws. The seller's listing it in fair condition, and they're being upfront about some minor body damage. Under the hood, you've got the 305 V8 paired with an automatic transmission. The good news is that the seller says it's been a reliable daily driver, which is actually pretty impressive for a 40-year-old truck. It's got some nice features for its era: power windows, power locks, tilt steering, and cruise control. The heat works great, but the AC system, while complete, isn't functioning. Now, for $4,700, what are we really looking at here? It's a running, driving, square-body C10 with some convenient features, but you'll need to factor in the cost and hassle of sorting out the title situation. The body damage and non-working AC will need attention if you want to bring it back to its former glory. These square-body C10s are becoming increasingly popular, and finding one that runs well enough to daily drive isn't as common as you might think. The 305 isn't the most powerful engine Chevy offered, but it's known for being reliable and easy to work on. If you're looking for a project truck that you can drive while you fix it up, this could be worth considering. Just make sure you understand your local title requirements before pulling the trigger. At $4,700, it's priced in the ballpark for a running square body with some issues. But that missing title definitely needs to be factored into any negotiations. 7. We're checking out a 1973 Chevy El Camino that's listed for $6,700, and let me give you the honest breakdown of this classic car-truck hybrid. This 73 is rocking the iconic blue paint and comes with the popular 350 V8 paired with an automatic transmission. A solid powertrain combo that's both reliable and easy to work on. With 77,050 miles showing on the odometer and a clean title, we're looking at what appears to be a fairly straight example of these increasingly popular classics. Now let's be real here. The seller's description is pretty brief, but they're upfront about the AC needing work. On the plus side, it does have power steering and power brakes, which makes this El Camino much more enjoyable to drive than its non-power assisted counterparts. For $6,700, what are we really looking at? In today's market, finding a running and driving 73 El Camino with a clean title isn't as common as it used to be. These vehicles are in that sweet spot where they're old enough to be cool, but still practical enough to use. The 350 automatic combination is probably the most desirable everyday setup you could ask for in these. The seller's pretty clean description and the fact it runs and drives is promising. But you'll want to factor in the AC repair costs if you're planning to make this a comfortable daily driver. These early 70s El Caminos are gaining popularity as classic car enthusiasts realize they offer a unique blend of style and utility. 8. We're looking at a pretty special 1983 GMC Sierra 1500 that's listed for $25,000, and this isn't your average work truck, folks. Let's talk about what makes this one stand out. First off, it's a wide-body, short-bed configuration, which is already a desirable combo. But the real story here is under the hood. We're looking at a 383-stroker motor, which is a serious upgrade from the stock engine. That's paired with a 350 automatic transmission and a sturdy 12-bolt rear end. Basically, this is a performance-oriented build. The orange paint with black stripes gives it that classic muscle truck look, and the seller claims both the interior and exterior are in great condition. With 85,134 miles on the clock, it's been driven enough to know it works, but not enough to wear it out. Some nice touches include the electric cutouts, which let you control how aggressive your exhaust note is, a SunPro TAC for monitoring that stroker engine, and what's described as a great stereo system. It's got power steering and power brakes, making it comfortable for regular use. Now let's talk about that $25,000 price tag. While that's serious money for an 83 GMC, we need to consider what we're looking at here. A well-built square body with performance upgrades, in what appears to be excellent condition. The 383-stroker motor alone represents a significant investment. And if the build quality is as good as described, this could be a turnkey classic performance truck. 9. We're looking at a 1973 Ford F-250 Ranger Camper Special that's listed for $4,000, and I'm going to give you the straight truth about this old workhorse. Let's be completely honest here. This truck needs some serious love. The seller is being refreshingly upfront about its condition, and we need to acknowledge that. It's been sitting outside for several years and currently isn't running. That's challenge number 1 right there. What we're looking at is a Ranger Camper Special with a desirable 390 V8 with a factory 4-barrel carb, backed by the bulletproof C6 automatic transmission. This was a solid powertrain combo back in the day, but after sitting for years, you'll definitely need to assess its condition. The odometer shows 165,000 miles, and it's rolled over, so we're looking at some serious mileage here. The good news? It's got power steering and power brakes, which is nice. The bad news? The bed is rusted, seller's words, and the cab is only in fair condition. No AC, but that's probably the least of your concerns right now. For $4,000, what are we really looking at here? Well, these camper specials are getting harder to find, and that 390 C6 combination is desirable when running. The price might seem steep for a non-running project, but these old Fords have been climbing in value even as projects. 10. We're checking out a 1978 Chevy C1500 stepside that's listed for $8,950. And let me tell you about this classic short bed beauty. What we've got here is a clean-looking stepside pickup. And let's be real, those stepside beds are becoming increasingly desirable in the classic truck market. The seller mentions it's very straight, which is always good news for these old Chevys that often fell victim to rust and dents over the years. Under the hood, we've got a small block Chevy engine, though the seller doesn't specify which one, paired with an automatic transmission. These are tried and true combinations that are both reliable and easy to work on. The truck's got power steering and power brakes, which makes it much more enjoyable to drive than its non-power assisted counterparts. The odometer shows 13,671 miles, but it has rolled over, so we're looking at 113,671 miles or more. That's not necessarily a deal breaker for these trucks. These powertrains were built to last. For $8,650, what are we really looking at here? In today's market, short bed stepsides from this era are getting harder to find in good condition. The fact that this one runs and drives well is a big plus. These late 70s Chevys are seeing increasing interest from collectors and enthusiasts, particularly the short bed variants. 11. We're looking at a 1969 Dodge D200 pickup that's listed for $3,200, and I'm going to give you the honest scoop on this vintage workhorse. Let's be completely upfront here. This is a project truck that needs significant work. The seller's being refreshingly honest about its condition, and we should appreciate that transparency. They're straight up telling us it needs both body work and an engine rebuild, which are two major undertakings. What we're looking at is an original D200 that started life in light blue with white paint, though a previous owner has repainted it in a darker blue. It's still running its original engine and transmission, which is cool for originality's sake. But remember, that engine is admittedly in need of rebuilding. The odometer shows 88,000 miles, but on a 54-year-old truck, that's probably less relevant than its overall condition. There is one bright spot. The brakes were restored to spec 2 years ago, which is at least one major system you won't have to worry about immediately. For $3,200, what are we really looking at here? Well, these late 60s Dodge trucks are getting harder to find in any condition, and they have a unique style that sets them apart from their Ford and Chevy counterparts. The price point reflects the amount of work needed, and honestly, that seems fair given today's market for classic truck projects. 12. We're looking at a 1978 Ford F-250 Ranger with an extended cab that's listed for $25,000, and this one's got some interesting features to discuss. First off, extended cab 78 Rangers are pretty rare finds, especially in what appears to be well-maintained condition. The seller claims this truck wears its original color scheme in silver, though with newer paint, which is always nice for maintaining that factory-correct look. What really catches my attention here is the list of new components. We're looking at a truck that's had some serious updating: new interior, fresh paint job, new tires, new AC, which is a huge plus in an old truck, new brake booster, new brakes, and a new exhaust system. That's a substantial amount of recent work that addresses many of the common issues these old Fords typically face. With 35,000 miles showing, this F-250 has relatively low mileage for its age, though as always with older vehicles, you'll want to verify if that's original. Now, let's talk about that $25,000 asking price. That's serious money for a 78 F-250, even with all the updates. However, the market for clean, well-maintained classic Ford trucks has been climbing steadily, and finding one with an extended cab and this many new components isn't common. If you're in the market for a turnkey classic Ford truck that's been thoroughly gone through, this could be worth considering. The combination of the rare extended cab, the comprehensive updates, and what appears to be excellent condition makes this an interesting package. 13. We're looking at something really special. A 1966 Chevy El Camino listed for $21,400. And this one's got a fantastic story behind it. What makes this El Camino particularly interesting is its incredible one-family history. We're talking about a vehicle that was bought new by the seller's father, with the current owner actually present during the original purchase. That kind of documented history is absolutely golden in the classic car world. Under the hood, there's a 327 cubic inch V8 that was swapped in during the mid-1970s, replacing the original 283. But here's the kicker. The seller still has the original 283 short block, which means there's potential to return this El Camino to numbers-matching status if desired. It's paired with a 3-speed manual transmission on the column, which is a fun, period-correct setup. With 118,000 miles on the clock, this El Camino has been driven enough to be enjoyed but clearly well-maintained, as evidenced by its show car history. The brown paint gives it that classic 60s vibe, and being described as very close to stock is a huge plus in today's market where many of these vehicles have been heavily modified. For $21,400, what are we really looking at here? Well, you're getting a well-documented, largely original 66 El Camino with known history from new. That's increasingly rare to find. The fact that it's been in the same family since new with only one owner change, father to son, is exceptional. 14. We're looking at a 1980 Chevy El Camino that's listed for $7,500, and I'll give you the straight scoop on this late model example. This El Camino comes in orange and is running a rebuilt V6 engine paired with an automatic transmission. The odometer shows around 65,000 miles, and it comes with a clean title. Now, I've got to point out that the seller's description is pretty minimal, which always makes me a bit cautious. Let's be honest here. The 1980 El Camino with a V6 isn't typically the most sought-after version. Most enthusiasts prefer the V8 models, but there's a silver lining here. The V6 is more fuel efficient, and since it's been rebuilt, you should have some reliable miles ahead of you. For $7,500, what are we really looking at? Well, these later El Caminos are starting to gain more attention in the classic car market, though they're still more affordable than their earlier counterparts. The good tires and rebuilt engine are definitely pluses, but you'll want to get more details about when that rebuild was done and what else has been maintained or replaced. The price point seems a bit optimistic for a V6 model, even with the rebuilt engine. However, finding clean examples of any El Camino is getting harder these days. And if the body and interior are in good shape, which we'd need to verify given the brief description, it could be worth considering. Remember, while this might not be the high-performance version some dream of, these later El Caminos offer a unique blend of car comfort with utility, and they're generally pretty simple to maintain. Just make sure to get a good look at everything in person, as the seller's brief description leaves a lot of questions unanswered. 15. We're looking at a 1976 Ford F-250 that's listed for $7,900, and let me give you the honest breakdown of this vintage hauler. The seller's description is pretty brief, but there are some key points worth noting. First off, we're looking at a truck with a rebuilt V8 engine, though they don't specify which one, and it comes with service records, which is always a good sign for any classic vehicle. The odometer shows 160,000 miles and has rolled over, so we're looking at some serious mileage here. Now, for $7,900, what are we really looking at? These mid-70s F-250s are getting harder to find in good condition, and the seller emphasizes that point by noting not many like this left. The fact that it drives well and has a rebuilt engine suggests this could be a usable classic rather than just a showpiece. However, I've got to point out that the description is pretty sparse. While they claim it's very nice, we'd really want to know more about the body condition, interior state, and when that engine rebuild was done. These 70s Fords were prone to rust issues, so that's something you'd definitely want to check out in person. The combination of service records and a rebuilt engine is promising. It suggests this truck has been maintained rather than neglected. These old Fords are generally pretty straightforward to work on, and parts availability is usually good. For someone looking for a classic F-250 that they can actually use while gradually improving, this could be worth checking out. Just remember to give it a thorough inspection. Even well-maintained classics from the 70s can hide some surprises under their skin. 16. We're looking at a 1977 Chevy pickup that's listed for $4,500, and I'm going to give you the honest scoop on this project truck. Let's be upfront here. This is a project, not a turnkey classic. The seller is refreshingly honest about its condition and needs, which I really appreciate. What makes this truck interesting is that big block 454 engine paired with the bulletproof TH400 transmission and 12-bolt rear end. That's a seriously desirable powertrain combination. The seller has already tackled some important work. New gas tanks with sending units, new fuel pump, water pump, spark plugs, wires, oil change, and a new battery setup. That's a good start, but there's still work to be done. The engine runs rough and likely needs carburetor work or tuning, and it's not currently street ready. Now let's talk about the body. There's a small hole in the passenger floor, common for these trucks, and surface rust in the bed. The odometer shows 49,000 miles, but as the seller notes, that's questionable given the truck's age. For $4,500, what are we really looking at here? Well, you're getting a project truck with one of the most desirable engine-transmission combinations these trucks came with. The 454 400 12-bolt rear combo is worth considering even if the truck needs work. These powertrains are known for their durability and performance potential. This could be a great starting point for someone who wants to build a classic square body with serious power. The fact that it runs and drives, even if roughly, means you can evaluate the major components before diving into a restoration. 17. We're looking at a 1973 Chevy C20 Cheyenne Camper Special that's listed for $4,900. And this one's got some interesting features worth talking about. First off, this isn't just any C20. It's a Cheyenne Camper Special, which means it came from the factory ready to handle the extra weight of a camper. What makes this one particularly interesting is that big block 454 that was rebuilt about 10 years ago with a performance cam and headers. That's a serious power plant, folks. The seller's being refreshingly honest about the truck's condition. It's wearing what they call nice original patina, which is increasingly desirable these days. But they're upfront about the rust issues on the passenger rocker panel and under the driver's side toolbox. There's also a small crack in the windshield, but they note it's not spreading. Recent maintenance includes a new fuel pump, fresh battery, and oil change, which suggests it's been cared for. The heater works well, which is always a plus in an old truck. With 84,000 miles showing, it's got some life experience but isn't worn out. What's really cool is that it comes with the original owner's manual, center caps for the original wheels, and the camper brackets. Those kinds of original accessories are getting harder to find these days. For $4,900, what are we really looking at here? Well, you're getting a camper special with a rebuilt big block 454 that's been enhanced for performance. Despite the minor rust issues and windshield crack, this could be a solid driver that you could gradually improve while enjoying that powerful engine. 18. We're diving into a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1972 Chevy C10. This long bed, two-wheel drive truck is a true blast from the past, and it could be yours for $15,000 or best offer. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Under the hood, you'll find a brand new 350 engine paired with a TH350 transmission, giving this vintage workhorse a new lease on life. The seller also mentions that it's a custom deluxe model, which means you'll get to enjoy some extra creature comforts like air conditioning, perfect for those hot summer cruises. One of the most appealing aspects of this C10 is that it's all original and everything is still intact. That's a rare find in the world of classic trucks, and it's a testament to how well this beauty has been cared for over the years. The odometer reads 100,000 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age, and the title is clean, so you can have peace of mind knowing that there are no hidden surprises. Now, I want to be straight with you. The seller is asking $15,000 or best offer for this truck, and while that might seem like a hefty price tag, it's important to remember that you're not just buying a vehicle, you're investing in a piece of automotive history. These C10s are becoming increasingly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts alike, and finding one in such original condition is a rare opportunity. 19. We're taking a closer look at a real classic, a 1974 Ford F-250 that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $9,500. This truck has got some serious history behind it, and it's ready to be your next daily workhorse. First things first, let's talk about the condition. The seller is upfront about the fact that this truck is in fair condition, which means it's not perfect, but it's still got plenty of life left in it. The original paint job is still intact, and the seller mentions that the truck has spent its entire life on the West Coast, which means it's been spared from the ravages of rust that can plague older vehicles. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 390 engine that's been given a new lease on life thanks to a new Edelbrock carburetor. Paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission, this truck is ready to tackle whatever you throw at it. The seller has also given it a fresh tune-up, new tires, a new battery, and new brakes, so you can hit the road with confidence. Now, let's talk about some of the unique features of this particular F-250. It's a camper version, which means it's got 3 gas tanks, although only one is currently in use. The interior upholstery could use a new seat cover, but otherwise, the truck is in solid shape with minimal dings or dents. Of course, as with any vehicle of this age, there are bound to be a few issues. The seller mentions that the truck has some leaks, but they also note that this is to be expected with a vehicle that's nearly 50 years old. It's important to keep in mind that this is a vintage truck, and it may require some ongoing maintenance to keep it in top shape. 20. We're diving into a real classic, a 1968 Dodge D100 swept-line short bed that's up for grabs on Craigslist for $11,000. This truck has been given some serious upgrades, and it's ready to turn heads wherever it goes. Let's start with the suspension. The seller has gone all out and installed a Crown Vic front suspension with power rack and pinion steering and disc brakes. That means this truck is going to handle like a dream, with smooth, responsive steering and plenty of stopping power. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 383 big block engine that's sure to get your heart racing. Paired with a 7/27 automatic transmission and a slush bucket shifter, this truck is ready to take on whatever you throw at it. The seller has also installed a tilt column, which is a nice modern touch. Out back, there's an 834 rear end that's built to handle all the power this truck is putting down. And don't worry about visibility. The seller notes that all the lights work, so you can cruise with confidence day or night. Now, the seller doesn't mention anything about the overall condition of the truck, so it's important to keep in mind that this is a vintage vehicle that may have some wear and tear. However, they do note that it runs and drives well, which is a good sign. One thing to note is that the transmission is listed as other, so it's worth clarifying with the seller exactly what that means. It could be a custom setup or something else entirely, so it's important to get all the details before making a decision.